And welcome back to AATV live streams. I'm your host Tom Amble-Hibbard from AATV. AATV. See, I can't even get the word straight. AATV headquarters. So we're live on the internet, Phil. Please do not swear. In fact, fuck it. Swear if you want to. So my special guest,
do my fucking best.
My special guest, as you may be able to hear today, is Phil Bucknall, who heads up Clearwater Airsoft.
Hello.
And here he is from his headquarters in Stoke-on-Trent, or more specific,
Newcastle.
Sunny Newcastle.
Newcastle on the line,
yeah. Okay. Our subject today is going to be real versus repro. So we're not going to slag anything off. What we want to talk about is pretty much when might you want to use real stuff, when might you want to use repro stuff, and does it really matter at all? Does that sound okay, Phil?
Sounds good to me.
So let's start with, I don't know, optics.
Okay.
So optics on your rifle. So let me just
will
grab something here. So this is my KWA Ergi build, or my Mark 18 build, and Phil's got himself a...
This is my Spectre Arms CQBR. Well, they call it the Edge 04. But it's basically a CQBR.
Okay, yes, right, Stu. I couldn't find a bigger flag. This was the biggest one I could find. Yes, Rob, I am a little overdressed, but I figure I can't go out airsofting, so I'm going to wear all this real stuff that I've spent quite a lot of money on.
I actually feel like I should have made more of an effort. I can't believe I'm not fully kitted up. I can go and grab my helmet.
Well, also, I figured if it got really rough in Tesco, at least I've got some steel plates I could wear.
This is true, yeah. They may not be ballistic, but they'll stop most people in Tesco's if they try and push.
It should be alright. Someone comes in with a slightly soggy baguette. I think I should be alright.
Yeah. So come on now, let's get on to optics.
Right, so again, yes, my KWA Ergi. On top of this, I've got a Vortex Strike Eagle 1:6 low powered variable optic. Not a short dot. Anyone calls it short dot's wrong. It's like calling every single vacuum cleaner a Hoover. But anyway, that's a whole different story.
Or every single AR and M4.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So most people. So this is a £300 optic, which actually in the world of glass
is cheap. That's cheap as chips.
For a decent power optic. Now I mainly got this because I filmed through it.
Okay.
So when I did all the range stuff at Thurliston, which sadly is closed at the moment for obvious coronavirus reasons, I had an adapter stuck on this with one of my phones on, filming through this. So obviously the image quality was already reduced quite significantly. And what I wanted was to get as good an image of BBs flying downrange as I possibly could from my view, because obviously I could put a scope cam on, but with this, viewers can see exactly what I was looking at and see straight down the reticule. It's also awesome in games because the optical quality is now it's not £1,000 or a £2,000 or a £3,000 first focal plane super shiny thing, and there are some mad people in airsoft. Well, not mad. If people want to spend that money in airsoft, that's absolutely fine. But for me, this does that filming job really nicely.
Okay.
So what do you have on top of you?
It's a good reason to have it, isn't it?
Sorry, say again.
It's a good reason to have it.
Yeah. And
of course, Vortex, I think everybody probably knows now, have got a pretty good warranty. Yeah,
so their VIP warranty is outstanding. But for those that don't know, who are watching or are going to tune in later, they pretty much have a no quibble returns policy. If you break it, actually, if it is broken, if you break it, that's a problem. If it is broken or burnt or run over or shot, they will replace it without any quibbles. Yeah. If you knowingly throw it off a mountain and film yourself, then obviously that's not going to work. But if
don't drive over it on purpose or anything.
Yeah, put it on YouTube and go, hey, look at this, ha ha ha.
Somebody shoots your glass out, they'll send you a new one, won't they?
Yeah, and in fact, I'll just pull out another one I've got lying here. This crossfire on my Marui has been shot out. Got shot out at Combat Ready in Derby, and it was replaced within 3 days. So I sent it off. It got shot on a Saturday. Sent it on a Monday. Back to me by Friday.
Yeah.
Okay, and I can't really, now that was 150 quid. Okay, so still not cheap. Let's not pretend that these things are cheap. So compared to what you've got on top of yours, let's talk about that for a second.
So that's my setup. I sometimes alternate between the EOTech and the G33, and this is another real optic. This is Vision King, so a lot of airsofters will have heard of that. So it's short dot scope, 1.25 to 5 magnification, 26 mil objective lens. It's illuminated. It's around about 60 quid, and the clarity on it I think is brilliant. But a lot of my guns, or the vast majority where I'm using red dots, I have replicas. The real 558 is 600 quid, and then you're looking at about 400 quid for the magnifier, I think. I just simply can't afford to pay that. So this setup was £70, and then I spent £8 on, I don't know if you can see it on there. Can you see the kill flash?
Yep.
So that's what I get for all of my optics. I just get kill flash.
And you have, so you don't move optics generally between the riffs. You tend to have one optic on.
All of sites, I'll have this one, and those will be for that gun. Then I've got another little variable magnification scope for a different gun. I've got little RMRs and all sorts, but I tend to keep them on the same guns. And for me, I find I don't film through them. I do try to use them in game, and I do zero them. Some of them are easier to zero than others. Some of them are really, you can't zero. Some are just shit.
So that's something we'll go into in a minute, is talking about zeroing optics.
Exactly, and battery life as well. But for me, I get it so that roughly, I'm a little bit more finicky than that. I do try and get it so that it's bang on. But if it's close enough, if the BBs are hitting sort of like around where the reticule is when I'm pointing at the target, so enough that it'll score a hit, then I can live with that. And if the lens does get shot out, I've lost 30 quid. Now, yes, I could get a vortex. I'm leaning on a solid oak table here while I say this. I've never had an optic shot at.
Yeah, so I've lost 4, I think. But that's over 20 years.
Yeah.
So it's not the end of the world.
So even your cheapest vortex, and don't get me wrong, I've used them and they are bloody brilliant scopes. Even just the red dots are amazing quality.
Yeah.
For £150, I'd have to lose 5 of these before the cost to me made sense, and I've never lost one.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Just a comment coming in from a guy from Lee Ginty, talking about headsets and comms. I'm planning to go on to that, Lee. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've had a couple where the zero's not been great, but apart from that, most of the time, I've not had a problem with the replica optics. And I've used a lot. I've got T1s, I've got RMRs, I've got EOTechs, I've got ACOGs, all of them. And they all do pretty well. But I have absolutely, if somebody wants to go and get one of the new Vortex Razor, burnt bronze, £3,500–4,000 variable zoom scopes, if you can afford it and you want to stick it on an airsoft gun, go for it. It's your money. Don't let anybody tell you you can't spend that on a gun. Why do you want to spend that much on a gun?
I've spent £2,000 on bike wheels before, so I'm really not going to worry about.
Exactly.
Stuff like that too much. So one of the points. So one of the things we have. One of the bits you touched on was zeroing. So I never really used to worry about zeroing because I used to think that airsoft guns just weren't accurate enough. Having spent a lot of time in the last 2-3 years doing a kind of accuracy videos and articles for Airsoft Action magazine and videos for the channel, I now think they're perfectly accurate enough, tuned out to 50-60 meters, that having a decently zeroed optic really does matter. Not really does matter. Obviously, it's down to personal opinion as to whether you think it's worthwhile or not. To me, it is worthwhile. The optical clarity on this, even though you find it's a both eyes open sight when you're looking through it, the optical clarity does matter. It's slightly blue tint, but it's way better than most Repros. Most Repros are very, very dark, especially fake holographic ones tend to be very, very smoky compared to a real one. So whether that matters to you or not, but certainly this thing holds 0. Obviously, it's real firearm rated and it holds 0. It's only on a recoil, so it's not a massive amount of shuddering going on, but it does make a difference. And if I don't know if you can see, but I've got a little red. People can pick it up on camera. I've got a little red witness marker even on the.
Can't see it, mate.
Yeah, tiny. Got a little, just so I know if the bolt comes loose or not.
Yeah, okay.
And I think a lot of the problem in airsoft optics, particularly ones that don't hold 0, is the mounts. Mounts are generally pretty terrible, and you can almost and also rails in airsoft guns are very rarely to spec anyway. So you've got a mount that's out of spec on a rail that's out of spec. It's just going to move around.
And I think one of the biggest issues is everybody likes them, and I've got them. It's the QD mounts, because they have some adjustment. You can change like the setting a little bit with nut on the other side, but it's either too much or too little. Very rarely does it fit really, really well. I do tend to prefer the mounts that have the screw nut down, sort of screw down nut on it, rather than
this one is again, but this one's in a Repro mount.
But it's got a screw down side.
It is, and the mount is the weak point in this, to the point where I'm probably going to get a different mount for it, because it does move around.
Oh, okay.
Not massively, but enough that if I bang it in a bag and it goes to the range, even at 60 meters, there can be
Yeah.
Okay. It just does. So it's one of those things. And in a normal game day, that doesn't necessarily matter. But if I'm shooting if I'm trying to shoot a range video, and we're talking about what's something that's coming up that we're doing, Phil, when we're doing our BB testing,
whenever we can do it.
If we can ever get around to doing that.
We've finally got the BBs. We've even got some mythical unicorn BBs.
And then suddenly
we can't go anywhere.
But one of the things I don't want to happen is the mount to shift in between firing, and us suddenly to then judge a BB based on the fact that, so these things are important. Okay, there's a few other things. So battery life. The
Repros do eat them.
They eat batteries, and it can really add up. I think I worked out with Gadge once that he could. If he bought a Vortex, in fact he did. He ended up buying a Vortex sight, because every time he played, he ended up burning through £7 worth of.
I mean, that can add up.
Yeah,
really add up. And I do find as well that it takes the slightest touch to turn the damn things on. So you put it in a case, and I don't know, you chuck the strap back over it, and it's enough just to turn it on. Like you said, next time you come to use it, flat batteries.
Yeah, and if it's not running on AA's, I think Stu, earlier in the comments, Stu Back all the way from Taiwan, he uses 552s, Airtech 552 clones because they use standard batteries. So that probably makes a lot of sense. It may not be the XP33 that SEAL Team that your mate David's using in SEAL Team, but that runs on a CR123. And obviously that's an expensive battery. Whereas if you're running on AA's or AAA's or rechargeables, then that's
you can buy them for pennies. I mean, you can get rechargeable 123As now, can't you? I don't know how good they are. I get a box of 18 off Amazon for about 12 quid. They seem to last quite well, and they fit in all the optics, because some of the batteries can be slightly different sizes as well with the 123As. So
the rechargeables are slightly longer, so sometimes they don't quite fit. Yeah. So Stu's made an interesting point in the comments. So again, he uses normal batteries, but he's had problems with GBB gas blowback recoil, knocking the batteries out of contacts.
Yeah,
because they're not built to real recoil standards.
Yeah, my ergs have turned a few optics off just by shaking them. Yeah. And my MWS, I literally could only use it's a clone ACOG, but it has the real fibre optic for the actual dot. So there was no battery at all. If any battery scope I put on my ergs, on the MWS, sorry, it would shake them off.
Yeah.
So
I've deliberately bought This is my GHK. Mm-hmm. This is a new Prol aimpoint clone. Deliberately bought this. With Comp M4 because I want to see what happens.
Mm.
You know, I want to be nice to say. You know, I don't really know. So I've not even fired it with the
Okay.
with the
I'm
red
going to
dot
be a
on.
bit Mystic Meg here and say in the next video you'll have a vortex on it.
I've no idea. It may be fine. It may not be. The mount's not brilliant, but which will probably be I suspect it's going to lose 0. But let's not. I'm not going to slag it off before I run it through the range test, which might be in God knows when.
Sometime in the next 5 years.
But that's one of the things that's part of my gas blowback testing. It's one of the things I really want to do is just kind of do a bit of stuff like that. Okay, cool. So I think we'll probably let's get off optics. So one last thing. You mentioned the zoom on your short dot was 1.2. You was 1. That's because you said it. 1.25. This is pretty much a 1.
Yeah.
So and has a very nice bright reticle, so you can pretty much use this as a red dot if you need to as well. And the more expensive, the more money you pay, generally the closer to 1 it will get. And the eye box. So one of the things about cheap optics, certainly magnified optics, is the eye box. So the distance you can put your head.
You're like.
Some of them are closer. Some of them are further away. Some of them are very unforgiving. So basically, generally, the more you spend, the more forgiving the optic is of bad head placement.
Yeah. No, I find especially with this Leopold clone, you've got about an inch of space. If you're not in that inch, it's just all shadow around it.
This is pretty good. I have had a look through a £1,000 Vortex, and it was the eye box, and that was quite phenomenal. It was like
could have been in a different room almost.
It was very forgiving, and also slightly weird angles. You know, you didn't have to have
the Vision King's very good as well. Actually,
I mean, people like those, and they're pretty good. I don't really have a. Certainly for airsoft, you know, but again, it's people's hobby. You can easily spend that optic costs more than a lot of people's guns, so it's one of those things, isn't it?
That rifle that I've got, the Spectre, that was 129 quid. You know, I've got a Ferro Concept sling on there, which was half as much as the rifle.
Yeah, I've got the cheap Spectre core to do a 0 to hero video with. I'm going to get it perform as well as I can for as cheap as I can. That's an £89 rifle, so it's got to be realistic at some point. Okay, let's do lasers. So you see an awful lot of lasers around. Obviously, I've got lasers on a few of mine as well. So you see a lot of these. Most people aren't using them for what the real military are using them for.
Good job, the cat on. Yeah.
So in the real world, you know, your mate David Duchovny.
No, Boreanis
Duchovny. He's the X-Files guy, isn't he?
Yeah,
it's probably your mate. It's probably your mate as well. Friends don't. Yes, Stu, that's right. Friends do not ask friends how much they've spent. So laser boxes, you see a lot of laser boxes, and a lot of sites are starting to react to the amount of laser boxes in games at the moment, and either banning them or make sure people take the batteries out, because you can buy these things relatively cheaply on Alibaba or AliExpress or Wish, and you have no real idea how powerful those lasers are.
Let's face it, though, I think there's a lot of companies now that are selling these rebranded, and they are coming from the same factories, aren't they?
Well, that's the way OEMs work. Now, you know, and sometimes you need to be a bit careful when you talk about OEMs, because people have different quality standards. People pay for better materials inside. People pay for just because something comes from the same OEM, original equipment manufacturer,
production line.
And we both know. I've worked in manufacturing. You've worked in manufacturing, so we both know how that works. But I've also worked and developed laser pointers for Games Workshop, and we had to run on a very, very, very low power to be eye safe.
Yeah,
like 0.01 milliwatts or something along those lines, and which is nowhere near what a lot of these are pumping out.
No. I know a lot of sites as well they'll allow red lasers as long as they're not shone directly at faces, but green lasers are a no-no. And I've even seen a couple of blue lasers and the odd purple one, very, very rare. And I think are they more powerful? I'm not sure. I think there's a lot of myth and misunderstanding about lasers and which ones are dangerous, or, you know, really, you don't want any of them shone in your face from, you know, your £25 from AliExpress laser.
If you're in the real world and you're intending to shoot someone,
that's
lasering them first really isn't a massive issue, right?
No.
However, we want to go for a pint with our mates and have a shake hands in the safe zone afterwards. So
we need them to buy a drink, so they need to find the bar.
Yeah, so if they can't see to get the card out to buy your pint, it's not really going to help. There are some, I think New Prols is CE certified. That is a rebrand from Element, but they say it's CE safe. So that if you're going to run one, that's probably in the UK, that's probably the one to get. Because at least they've done some testing on it. Now, in the real world, they are generally used with IR lasers, so lasers that you can't see with the naked eye and you can only see with night vision.
Yeah.
The problem with IR, obviously, is that you can't see the laser and your eye doesn't react in the same way. So most people's twitch reactions being hit by a laser is to move away and get their eyes out of the way. So this should be all right, even if someone's using a high-powered laser. With IR, you won't really know till your eye gets hot.
And then it's too late.
And then it's probably too late. And obviously, again, so this GMP ball, this is really popular.
Yeah, really popular
in the Milsim community. These things are really hot, and even their low power really isn't eye safe. I was having a look at this one. If you're in a training environment and you know the people you're working with, and you are, and you're doing a force on force scenario, perhaps, and you can trust the guys, you're probably okay, and you know that everyone's going to have their guns down below eye height. I imagine these things aren't too bad. In a random milsim, I would not want one of these pointed at me, which is a shame because using night vision and IR is absolutely awesome. But
I think as well, one thing we need to really cover with these things is the cost. So this is less than 30 quid from AliExpress. I think they're about £50 to get a CE marked one.
50, 60.
From Nucrol. A real PEC 15, a civilian safe one, if you could get one from America, they're $3,500. You can get a PEC 2 for about 500-600 quid if you're lucky. If you want anything more expensive like that D-Bal 2, you're looking at...
That's 200 in the UK.
For the GMP one, but for the real one, it's...
£1,000 again.
More than that.
More than that. So part of the reason these are more expensive than these is that these are pretty good in that the red laser and the IR laser are slaved pretty well. Certainly on this one, the IR and the red laser are slaved together. So I've had this zeroed out to 60 meters, and the red laser and the IR laser coincide. So it's really easy to zero because you just turn the red laser on, put the red laser on, coincide the red laser with your red dot, and then at night, the IR laser is going to run okay, but too hot, probably, really, for most people. If I'm honest, I don't like saying it, but let's be honest. And so I know gunmen have stopped all IR lasers in their games in their night games, because they just can't. You can't
police it.
We don't have a chrono. We don't have a laser chrono. It's just not a thing. Maybe that comes along at some point. But also, with the amount of tech that's going into these things, 30 quid for a laser. So I think what we're saying, if you're going to put a laser on in the UK and you actually want to use it, the New Pro one is probably the best bet.
Yeah.
Everything else, these are really, for me, just dressing up.
I did actually start running them without any batteries in.
Yeah.
just had them for looks.
Yeah.
But I think they have got batteries in at the moment. That like to work. But I tend to use it more sort of pointing out where people are roughly, rather than actually. And if I do hit somebody, I will always aim for like chest or below, sort of mid drift, so that there's no chance of hitting anybody in the eyes. Yeah,
obviously great for if you're dressing up, if you're doing cosplay, which let's be honest, we all are really. Having one on your rifle is a great idea. There are some Russian ones. I've seen Zenitco have been doing stuff. They're probably a bit on the better side, and also they actually work. Part of the problem with these is this bears no relation to the actual thing whatsoever. It's just some cheap laser emitters, and again they don't hold zero. You need to pad them out with foam, and even then they don't really. Which is even worse because really, if you're trying to point your gun at someone and your laser's pointing at them, you kind of want the two to coincide. Really,
would be nice.
It's going to help. If you have to hold high and hit someone in the face in order to hit them in the.
That's gonna be at the door.
All right, see you in a minute.
Back.
I shall go to my main camera. So yeah, so this is the. In fact, I think this is an Element PEC box. I have shot it with a recoil gun, just a Marie, and it will lose recoil. Will lose 0 under recoil, so it's not the best thing in the world. Mainly just used this one. I've done some stuff for night vision testing. I've mainly just used it for dressing up because the real guns have them. So, and he's back.
I'm back. So some of the friends just dropped some milk and potatoes around for me because I had an operation yesterday,
mate.
so I'm not allowed to drive.
So I think lasers. I think what we're saying is if you really want to use one, buy a CE certified one where possible. If you don't, expect a lot of sites to not let you use it and to take the batteries out. And more milsims now, battle sim companies are mandating that you don't actually use the just no lasers. Batteries out your PEC box. Which is a shame because it is awesome running around at night with night vision on and an IR laser. And
I've never played a night game with night vision, so I don't know really.
Yeah, it's really good fun. And then if you're using a GMP D-ball, be really, really, really respectful of who you're pointing these things at. Absolutely run it on low power mode. High power mode is like a lightsaber. If you've watched 13 Hours or anything like that, yeah, it really is like, absolutely crazy. This does have an IR illuminator on it, which All right, torches. Things we're going on dressing up parts. Again, quite a common thing for people to.
You won't see many people with one of these ones, though.
Well, look at that fancy bad boy.
20V.
Yeah.
Really popular in the Magpul, Chris Costa, Haley Strategic days.
And the dynamic carbine and all that.
Yeah, they were really popular. And I've got a lot of different clone Surefires, again, because I just can't justify spending 300 quid on a torch.
Yeah, so this is a clone Surefire on my. I'm trying to work out how to move in the camera.
Right as well. Yeah.
So this is a clone Surefire, Element clone Surefire, with the clone Night Force buttons. I can't really justify spending 300 quid, 400 quid on a torch either. So there are certainly bits where I'm very happy to use Repro and bits where I'm happy to use real stuff. And this is certainly this case is one of the ones where I'm very happy to use a fake torch. I haven't had any problems. I've used this with a little bit with the gas gun and had no problems. I wonder if the gas gun, the contacts are going to be strong at the back. The springs are going to be strong enough. So I'll find out about that. If anyone's used a clone,
I have
Surefire with a gas gun and had problems in the comments, let us know. You said, what was that, Phil?
Used them on an MP7 and an MWS. Worked fine. I think I've even got one on my Radian, which is a bit more powerful kick. And I've had them on Wii's when I did a short and a long L119A1 build. And I've put Surefires on both of them. And the torches are a lot more resilient than the optics.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot less internally, obviously, to be shaken about.
Yeah, I do. I have seen torches stuttering under gas guns.
Okay.
At milsim battle sims where people have been firing and obviously the batteries are moving against the contacts and maybe the springs aren't quite strong enough.
The different size in batteries, though, depending on which batteries you get.
Could be. One thing, let me just reach over. Grab something. So this is my TM Glock with an Ulite Valkyrie. So this is a real weapon light, real recoil rated at I think they're like 70-80 quid.
Yeah.
So they're a little bit more than the clone Surefires. This is excellent. Yeah. Obviously it doesn't say Surefire on the same. It's not quite on the side and it's not quite the same. But actually, I really rate these. I think these are really good, and obviously they're recoil rated.
Yeah,
so you're
not quite nice as well. Like the TLR one, which not many people use. You can get one of those for about £110, I think, and they're quite nice torches as well.
Yeah, they're quite hard. Some of the streamlights are quite hard to get in the UK, but they're pretty good value. I really rate these. So if anyone's looking for a weapon light and you're not. And you're not looking for a kind of clone specific part,
Yeah.
I would have a look at these Ulites. You can run them on your rifle as well. They're really quite good.
What are they bright as well?
Yep.
Oh, you got strobe.
And a strobe function, and they're super bright. They're much brighter than most of the clones.
Good.
And obviously, yeah. So if you're looking for a torch and you're not worried about it saying Surefire on the side, which most of the time I am, I would rate these.
I have to say, the only time I've used a torch recently was when we went to Combat Ready in Derby that time. But I tend to have torches on all of my guns.
That place was Stu Backer has played at Combat Ready in Derby. Sadly closed now. The building's been redeveloped. Playing at night in the winter in the virtually most of the sites pitch black was pretty epic. Really, even in the broad daylight, there were areas of the site that were pretty much completely dark. It was pretty mad. So one thing I do have. Which is a bit of a cheat. This is a real Surefire KM2 Vampire head, so it has an IR illuminator built into it.
As well, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So IR and white light. The white light's not as powerful as a dedicated torch, but it does have an IR illuminator, which is super useful. So you can do stuff like just by the head.
Mm-hmm. And then does it fit? I mean, have you tried it with a few different clone bodies?
It just about fits on this one. There may be clone bodies where it doesn't. It doesn't fully engage, but it threads on enough that I'm confident. And then it gives me proper IR illumination again from when I was testing night vision. I don't play a lot with night vision, but when you're testing stuff, obviously it's quite important that you give it a good run. And if you use a crap illuminator and then say the night vision's crap, then that's not really very fair on the product. So I was I'm going to get a proper and I got a good deal on this. It was like £70 or something. So that's
not too bad, really.
Yeah, I was quite happy with that. That's.
I mean, you can spend an absolute fortune on torches and IR and scopes and mounts. I mean, you can spend £600-700 on a mount for a scope. If
the
you
Guy's
really
Super Precision mount that's a clone of is £800. But if you put a £4,000 scope on it, it's probably worth putting it on a decent mount, isn't it? It's one of those things.
One of the £20 AliExpress ones, which you've got, like you say, £8,000 of glass in there.
Yeah.
But then it's down to what it's worth to you, isn't it, as an individual?
It is. Well, let's talk about slings.
Uh-huh. Well, I think we're both similar here. Slingsters. You got Slingster?
Yes, that's Slingster on this one.
Slingster, yeah. So I tend to, on all of my ergs, and most of my sort of more expensive guns, I will have a genuine Slingster. And then on a couple of the cheaper ones, I have Viper VX slings, which are copies of Slingsters, and they're about a third of the price. And to be fair, the build quality is almost on a par. The quality materials is almost on a par. They're a little bit softer. I worry that the durability may not be quite as good as the genuine Slingsters, which is why I don't use them on the really expensive guns.
But then again, if you're putting a £60 sling on a £150 gun, again we've kind of talked about it starts getting a little bit silly.
You mean like I did with this one?
Yeah.
That's also got the £15 extra, their new improved pull.
Oh, that's right, because I've only got the little ringy one, and you've got the other one.
Yeah, well, that was £14 or £15 from Tactical Kit. I had 7 or 8 slings from Tactical Kit, all Slingsters, and I've had Magpul slings. Slings is one area where I've always been. I don't know why, but I've always been really fussy because the number of times I've seen people with a cheap £5 sling running and then their rifle suddenly isn't with them anymore.
Yeah. And then the other thing people cheap out on is sling mounts as well.
Yeah. So I've seen people who like put £800 scopes on their rifles and then get a £3 sling. And I think you got that arse about face.
Really doesn't. Yeah. And the amount of guns I've seen broken, used as walking sticks, snapped in half, dropped over the last 20 years is enormous. So for the sake of a sling. So you're saying I remember we scoffed a little bit at the Viper ones when they first came out, but you said
I did.
Yeah, but we said fair enough. You said fair enough. I'll get one and have a look at it.
And now I've got 3 of them.
So okay, and if they're well made enough, they're well made enough. Fine. Again, it's like what's good enough. We're not jumping out of planes, and we're not, so we don't need that really high level stuff.
I had when I'm watching SEAL Team.
Again, this is a £1,000 rifle now with all the stuff in it. So I'm going to put a £50 sling on it. I think that's a very wise investment.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my Spectrum has only got one on because I've got a couple of these lying around that weren't on guns. So I have an excess of slings at the moment, which is a really nice position to be in.
And then the GHK's got a Haley on. I actually prefer the Slingster. The Haley's got that kind of 1 to 2 point transition stuff. I'm a bit like, I don't really use it.
Yeah. I used to use the MS. I had the MS1, MS2, and MS3 slings, the Magpul ones. Really liked them, but then I wanted to go to 2 point. I tried the Blue Force Gear Vickers padded sling, which was really comfy, but I just found the material on the webbing was a bit too stiff.
Yep. I mean, I really rate slings. I think if you don't use one, it just makes everything. If you get a well set up 2 point sling, it makes playing games just easier. Yeah. You can walk around a lot more comfortably.
Everything is just so much easier. If you need to sling your rifle in a hurry to pick something up or to go to your secondary, or to get something off your belt kit, then having a decent 2 point sling, so you can just sort of push the rifle down, sling it out of the way with your left hand as you go to grab whatever you need with your right hand. It does make a world of difference.
If you're carrying a pistol, it'd be nice if you could nicely put your rifle down on a tree before you. So I think there are some good quality slings out there. I think probably spending £3 probably isn't the best idea. Probably look at something like the Viper at about 15, 20, 25 pounds.
Absolute bare minimum for anything that I'm going to use. I wouldn't use anything less than the Viper VX sling.
Yeah.
And if my gun's that little bit more expensive, then it's going to get a Slingster. That's it. That's simple. They're my options.
Okay, let's do. So I want to do comms.
Okay.
Because we've had different experiences with comms.
We have.
So I've had a lot of Z-Tac stuff.
Yeah, those are the EMO ones, aren't they?
These are my TCA clone Peltors.
Okay.
Which are okay.
Yeah.
I've used proper Peltors and they are so much better than these. It's not even funny. But then we're not shooting real guns.
No.
But certainly hearing wise and comfort and clarity of the transmission is much better, much better through a set of Peltors than it is through these. And these are a lot better than the Z-Tac ones I had, which basically sounded like someone on a string with a can at each end.
See, my experience with Z-Tac's been completely the opposite end of that. I've got 2 sets, and it's the same 2 sets that I've had since I started using comms.
I've got a box of broken bits.
The noise cancelling works perfectly. The amplification of the background noise sound is spot on. It does cut off and restores itself once the grenade's gone off, for example. So that first Pilgrims game when we were up at Clearwater Airsoft, I have never been so glad to have.
I remember you coming out and saying you were so glad you had headphones on.
My friends playing didn't, and I don't think you could hear anything till Wednesday. It was just insane, absolutely insane.
For those of you, that was a private game, for a kind of industry insider game for charity, for Pilgrim Brandt's charity in 2018, and I have never seen so much pyro. I mean, not just. There were mortars, smoke, like airsoft mortars going off, pyro being chucked at this fort, pretty much one bang a second for at least an hour. It was insane.
Check out my cover photo on Facebook for Phil Bucknall, because it's the photo of the final battle, and it does look like something from a war film. It was insane, absolutely brilliant fun, and I am so glad I had active hearing protection.
So one of the things, comms gets expensive really fast.
So even some of the clone ones, like you say, the TCI stuff, they do the clone PRC radio as well, don't they?
It's basically a Baofeng in a case.
But it's a few £100, doesn't it?
Yeah, looking at £300 for and a real one, obviously, if you can get one, which you shouldn't be able to get because I'm sure it's still.
Yeah, it's probably some classified stuff there.
So even there's a Gen 1 which is plastic, and there's a Gen 2 which has an aluminium case. Those are hundreds of pounds, and it's hundreds of pounds for a Baofeng radio, which is £20 on AliExpress. right?
You get the digital Baofeng for 30 quid off Amazon.
Yeah, and you still need a license, but we're not going to go into that right now.
I know. So
I've got one. I have one.
When
I have
play a license.
I'm like, good. New Peltor headsets, 500 quid. You can get them second hand for 300, but 500 quid. Right. So kind of proper aerials. It's comms is a real PTTs again.
The other thing that's worth mentioning, I think, Tom, as well, is the connectors.
Yeah.
So the real connectors versus airsoft connectors are very different.
Yeah. So certainly PTTs into Baofeng down leads, the little Kenwood, and again Kenwood Motorolers. The civilian stuff is it's not as reliable. It's just not. The biggest problem with Baofengs is often the connector into the radio. So if you hang Tom, and again it's a faff, isn't it?
Yeah.
And trying to get different manufacturers' stuff to sit and work properly. And if you've got an amplified PTT versus a non-amplified PTT, that's a nightmare as well. So comms is really difficult. And for most people, it doesn't really matter. If you're playing a skirmish, you can probably just shout, or you're dead, so you can have a chat with your mate on the safe zone. If you're doing a weekend milsim, it becomes a lot more important.
Comms version 1.0. Oi, Dave!
Oi! And I remember every time we've gone out playing, certainly the last few years with my my knockabout team, we start off with great intentions of having radios on and everyone's all ready, and then literally 10 minutes in, they're all broken. Everyone's connectors are shagged. The frequencies are all screwed up. No one can talk to each other. Some guy's leaning on his beep 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 attention device.
You've got 16 taxis waiting for you.
Some guy down the road is really annoyed because his taxi firm's on the same frequency. It's not great, really. It's not great. So comms are a massive pain in the bum. I think it's one of those things. There is, if you want proper comms over a decent distance, reliably, it's just going to cost money. It's just going to cost money.
Like if you want decent optics, decent lasers, there is not a cheap way to do it.
No, to do it well, I think you can get away with it, and it depends on what you're trying. I think the kind of common message throughout this has been a lot of it's about what you're trying to do and what you're trying to achieve, and
what you actually want from it as well. If you want a fully functioning comm setup that'll work over 10 kilometres regardless of the terrain, it's going to cost you more than a Baofeng.
And then antennas are a massive thing. The stock antennas and Baofengs are terrible, and a lot of the antennas you buy on the airsoft market are not good, no matter what the makers will tell you. If you're not buying a real antenna, it's not a real antenna. And they want to cook your face off or damage your radio. That's one of the realities of using bad antennas as well. I'm not a comms expert, and every time I go anywhere near it, I get this terrified face.
Yeah, there's a few people out there on Facebook World and other internet forums who are Jesus. I mean, after reading like 2 paragraphs of what they've written, I need to go and sit in a dark room with an ice pack on my head.
I mean, like Richie from the Heresy Group, he's got some just put a video up recently. He quite often does RTO, so radio officer at Milsims, with 2 radios and PTTs. He's just put a guide up. I watched recently that was pretty good, and there's some other stuff on their channel which is pretty good. Some of which goes into using frequencies I would ignore because you can get yourself in trouble in the UK. But again, this is not the forum for that. Okay, so we're getting there. Let's just finish off with helmets.
Okay, I haven't got my helmet, but I do have one, but I just don't wear it.
You don't really wear one, do you? So, and we touched on this in Phil and I did a 3-part gear series on my YouTube channel just recently. We go through all of our stuff. This is kind of what prompted this, because a lot of stuff came up. A lot of questions on Facebook came up as a result of that. So we'll talk about this. So this is my bump helmet. Again, this is one of those kind of classic what's worth spending money on and what isn't worth spending money on. This currently has a Psionics digital. So that's just about good enough for airsoft as a night vision camera. I think they'll be about 400 quid when they come into the UK.
But it is a camera as well, isn't it?
It's a camera as well, so you can film. So one of the key things is you can film through it. The field of view is not as good, no matter what anyone tells you. Right, lots of people tell you that people will tell you that the Gen 2 equivalent, they're not.
Really?
Absolute nonsense.
Who says that?
And lots of people.
People.
People. I've had people trying to tell me they're Gen 3 equivalent. It's absolute nonsense. One, the technology is completely different, right? So it's a digital CCD rather than an analog tube. So, the image intensification is probably Gen 1 equivalent.
Yeah.
But again, equivalent's really difficult because it's not the same technology. But in terms of light gathering, it's probably like Gen 1 basic Gen 2. They do film in colour, but the colour disappears quite quickly when it gets dark.
Yeah.
But it's usable for 400 quid.
When you look at a cheap monocular, say Scott Country, I don't think they still do them. Was it the Spark Core? It was.
Yeah, they stopped doing those because these are better for the same-ish money.
But it was about 600 quid.
Yeah, these are
cheapest one.
These are better, and they can record. Which let's be honest, a lot of what we actually want to do is run around at night and film ourselves. So we can do that with this. But even then, so that maybe 400 quid camera, but I've got a Lions Gear fast mount on it, so that's some money as well.
Mm.
So that was and a lens protector and a back lens protector. So again, we're adding up.
Yeah. For all the bits people forget with night vision, the cost of actually getting it mounted.
So this is an FMA bump helmet, so a fake helmet. I've got real pads, real straps. I've got a real because if you're running a £4,000 night vision unit, I would say running a real arm and a real shroud is a necessity.
Yeah.
When you're running a 400 quid digital camera, you could probably get away with running Repro stuff as long as it's of decent quality. This is
the aluminium version, not the plastic.
Yeah. So this is real weak Wilcox because I was testing £6,000 night vision.
You have been testing the expensive stuff,
and I was like, I'm not going to trust an FMA Repro. I've heard of people having to file, this just pops on and off really nicely, locks into position, completely solid. I've heard people having to file down bits and bobs to get the clones to mate, and I'm like, that's fine when it's your kit. Yeah. When I was testing other people's kit, that's just not a good thing. No. I did not want to have to buy a...
Can't send it back with file marks on the mount, can you?
So I think this helmet's a really nice example of kind of a blend of airsoft and real stuff.
I think as well something that shows over airsoft kit in the past sort of 10, 15 years, real stuff would never have fitted on that helmet 10 years ago. They were copies, but they were never really good copies. They were always off dimensionally in some way. But now, especially the FMA ones, seem to be really quite a high standard.
The shell's really good. The shell's good.
There's no ballistic protection whatsoever, obviously. But, for that, you're not looking for that. You just need something to mount a counterweight and a...
Yeah, I mean, that's a clone counterweight pouch because it was just not...
Yeah, why spend 100 quid on a bag with a bit of lead in it?
Now, if you want to, brilliant.
Do it.
Go for it. No problems. But for me...
Get a fast bump helmet as well.
Yeah, and actually, if I was doing this again now, so if I was saying to a beginner night vision user, and you were looking at getting into reasonably decent night vision, buy a real helmet.
Yeah.
Because you won't be spending hundreds of pounds on arms and shrouds and everything else. I think I would say don't tell Jo, but she's probably watching the stream.
See, this is good because I'm not in the same house now, so anything that happens, I'm not witness to.
Real cover.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much half and half. This is not a Hellstar 6.
No, but they're a few hundred quid as well, aren't they?
Yeah, 300 quid. As we talked about on our, you can get them. Yeah. You can buy them commercially. As we talked about on our video, it's all well and good in Syria being the only dudes with IR on, and you can run an IR strobe.
Yeah.
This has an IR mode. Has an IR mode. But we're not in Syria. We're playing airsoft games, and if everyone's running around with IR on, IR strobes on, you're just going to be lit up like a Christmas tree.
Yeah. Is that IR on?
Yes. It does actually have an IR. It does actually have IR LEDs. Not that I can show you guys, but but yeah, just literally the first time I've just turned it on, and yeah, it does have blinking IR.
Cool.
So that's one of those. So it's fine for our purposes. Absolutely good enough. I don't need it to last forever. I don't need it to signal to passing jet fighters so we don't get bombed. So I was again. But if someone wants to buy a real one, brilliant. But to me, it just wasn't worth the money.
I hate this sort of trend towards reverse snobbery that we've touched on.
And that's what I want to finish off with, is talking about inverse snobbery.
It's just disgusting, but it's as bad. In fact, I think it's even more insidious than the people who go, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're playing with a budget gun." Because the budget guns are so much more accepted nowadays. I mean, nobody said to me, I've been playing airsoft 28 years. Nobody's ever had a go at me for playing with a 130 quid Spectre.
No.
But turn up with a £1,000 Marui support gun. All of a sudden,
and you've seen this. You've had grief from people that don't know you.
Yeah,
it's just ridiculous.
Like, literally following me from forum to forum, page to page, to comment negatively on anything I said about the Mark 46. There's no need for it.
We had a classic one. So Gadge and I did the combat pants video about a month ago, and we put that up on various Facebook groups to promote the video. And we had some people, being, talking about the pause, and we had some people going, "Why would you spend that much money?" And we're like, "Well, watch the video, and you might find out why you want to spend that amount of money." Or it doesn't actually, and it doesn't really matter. It depends what you want to get out of your airsoft. But we had one chap who said, complete waste of money. It's just a label. We're like, really?
Yeah.
Really? So we did a little bit. Oh, this is fun. Let's have a little chat with him. And he kept going. I've owned clones and I've owned cries, and they're just the same. And my cries fell apart after 3 washes and all this. And we're like, so I was like, okay, mate. So what model were they? Oh, I don't know. It was a few years ago. Oh, right. Okay. Have you got a photo? Because I can tell you what model they were.
Was it Emerson?
No, he was lying out of his arse, wasn't he?
Yeah. Oh,
He'd never earned any. Just thought he'd try and score some cheap points. Anyone that spends £300 on a pair of trousers must be an idiot.
Know what make they are and what model.
And he claimed to have them. So anyone that's owned a pair of cries and a pair of clones will know that there is a vast difference between them.
So I've never owned any cry. I wish I could, but to me, again, I'd rather spend the money on guns than trousers for something that I'm going to wear maybe twice a month. But everybody who's got it, I've got a mate who's got a ton of cry, and he gets it cheap as well. You can get some pretty good deals on eBay.
This was 80 quid.
There you go. So yeah, and he swears by it. Really good kit, and you can't argue with that. It is good kit. Sometimes you might get a lemon, it might fall apart.
Oh, it's like anything, isn't it?
Everything. I think it is interesting though, because we have sort of said Repro stuff is pretty good, it's okay, and yet we both use real steel load bearing kit.
Yeah, but as we talked about in our video, Phil, if I could have got a TMC,
you would have done, wouldn't you?
I would have done, because it's good enough.
Yeah,
good enough for me and people I've spoken to who I trust say that it's perfectly good enough. I would have bought a TMC AVS copy. However, I'm a big chap, so there are always I'm a big guy. So I bought a real one, right, and it's brilliant. I love it. It's fantastic. It's the best plate carry I've ever had. However, there was no So for those who don't know, this is a Cry JPC2 in XL. It is massive. But then again, it doesn't look massive on me because I'm a big dude.
That look big on David.
It would look big on.
Just saying.
Your mate David. But I think for me, I've seen more. I think certainly as a result of the videos that we've put out recently, I've seen more people being snobby about people spending money than I have from people that have spent the money being snobby about people that haven't.
Yeah, it's almost got to the point now where if you're standing there with anything Gucci, you just stay quiet for fear of actually getting ridiculed. And everybody seems to think it goes the other way. The guys with the expensive optics, the expensive guns, the expensive kit take the piss out of everybody else, and it's just not fucking true. And it really boils my piss.
So I find it really quite offensive. It's like, why does it matter? Why does it matter? Yeah. It's like, does it personally insult you that I've spent money on something that you don't have? Really, what is the issue?
Yeah,
and I've been in a lot of sports, a lot of expensive sports. I've been in skydiving and road cycling and time trialing and all sorts of stuff. And I've never seen an activity where people really disparage other people for having nice things.
Yeah.
I think there's been a bit in cycling. There's a bit of like he's a bit slow on that bike.
Yeah, he's got a really, really nice bike, but
he's really slow, and that was quite funny.
Yeah.
And I'm quite happy with all the gear and no idea. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
That goes for all these sports that I've been involved with. I think that's perfectly fine. You've got no clue what you're doing, but you enjoy yourself and you spend your money. What does it matter? But in airsoft, I've never seen anything like the amount of scorn some people put on other people for having nice things. And really, if it's your hobby, as I said, I've spent £2,000 on bike wheels before to make me go 15 seconds faster over 10-mile time trial.
That's a big game, that is, actually.
At the time, that was really important to me,
Yeah.
And it's like, but what does it matter?
Yeah.
What does it matter if I can afford it? And, I think what we're not saying is, don't feed your dogs for a month. We're saying, like, if you've got the spare cash and you enjoy it, even you have to save up for a bit.
Don't do stuff, but my microfight chest rig, everything added together, was probably close to £400. The TMC ones that I'd seen and used before, like the Haley copies, were crap. The buckles broke, the fabric fell apart, the stitching was shit. I've used Warrior pretty much the last 15 years, probably a bit less. Yeah, maybe a bit less. I've never got rid of a piece of Warrior kit because it's fallen apart. I've just sold it to get another bit of Warrior kit.
I think the clone stuff is a lot better than it used to be. Certainly some of it used to be absolute trash. You just go through a bush and like your pouches would fall off.
Yeah.
But these days a lot of it is much better, much better. To the point where a lot of the impression guys will happily use some of it because it's good enough.
Clone JPC2s, apart from the little cry bit, like I'm pointing at your chest to the side of your flag, where you got the little cry label. If people know, they know.
Yeah. Well, you can tell this is a TMC front panel.
The mags,
the mag panel. It's not as well stitched as the rest of the carrier. It's just obvious. But it's only obvious when you're like 2 feet away or a foot away, or really know what you're looking for.
Not a good nice and we go, hang on, he's not got a proper cry front panel.
And I say, as we talked about in the video, my back panel on this rig is a TMC because I'm not going to spend £300 on a cry rucksack. And this TMC one's really good. I'm really quite impressed with it, to the point where I might get some more TMCs. I was looking at getting they do a clone Spiritus.
They do now, yeah.
Yeah, which I might get, which is like £70.
Quite good.
Yeah, but for the amount I'll use it, which is once, twice a year.
I could do one as well, I think, don't they? They've got I very nearly, because I can't afford to spend £400 on another Spiritus rig. I very nearly got the grey Spiritus one because they use it in CLT.
Yeah, so Gaz says the TMC clones are actually way better than there are some licensed clone replicas.
Yeah.
Gaz says the clones are actually, the TMC clones are better than the licensed clone replicas. So,
doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
And a lot cheaper. So, and all the ones I've seen recently have been really quite good.
It's that for £60, can't you?
Yeah, but again, if you want to spend money on real stuff, spend money on real stuff. It doesn't bother me. But please don't look down on people because they've spent more money than you. It really, and I'm sure you guys on the stream are all preaching to the converted here.
Yeah, I would imagine so. But
because we're all kind of like my audience. Well, also my audience. If I look at my YouTube analytics, my audience are generally all over 25.
Yeah.
So we're not talking to the 14-year-olds who quite and that's cool. If you're 14, don't go buying £300 cry JPCs. You've got better things to spend money on, like girls and stuff.
Like it.
Cool, Phil. Is there anything you want to touch on?
I think we've pretty much covered most things, really. Not clone stuff, but good stuff. I think I've got that PTS t-shirt on, but they do some really nice grips, stocks and stuff that aren't clones because they're not based on real ones.
But they're kind of built to almost real standards.
Yeah.
Certainly better standards than most airsoft.
Oh yeah, I think they work. Obviously, the pistol grips are made for AEGs, but the gas blowback ones are more than capable of working on a real AR, and they are very much AR orientated. But there are a few companies out there, like PTS, that make individual or unique stuff for airsoft, but sort of to real steel standards, using real steel materials like the DuPont Zytel polymer that they used when they were making when they had the Magpul license. So yeah, and even some of the clone Magpul stuff, and it's all clone now. If somebody's offering you a stock for £10, and they're saying it's a Magpul CTR, it's not a real Magpul CTR, because a real Magpul CTR is about £90. Real one.
Yep. But then it's gas blowback.
Yeah.
Real ergo grip.
Yeah.
And there'll be various other real bits going onto this. As I've got a real ambi selector coming from Brownells as well. Real Colt ambi selector. So that's one of the nice things about gas blowbacks, is if you're into real stuff, you can put real stuff on them. This is all Gaz's fault, by the way. Thanks, Gaz, for getting me into this. It's going to cost me an absolute fortune.
How much is the ambi selector going to set you? That's going to be
£90.
Yeah, I thought so.
So it's a real Colt ambi full auto selector.
Ooh,
which is the same price as my rifle, one of my rifles.
Yeah,
but it is a real. It's going to be very nice, though, isn't it?
It's going to be proper. So you'll be sort of playing with that lots, doing your fire drills, and then going safe. Yeah. But
Gaz just said a Delta guy was just a CAG operator, or he might have been a US special operator. So Green Beret was spotted with a VFC QRS stock recently on the end of his gun.
Really?
Yeah. There's a photo floating around somewhere. So it's starting to go. It was like, so God knows.
Yeah. I mean, the quality of a lot of airsoft stuff has improved exponentially in the last few years. Whether it be the polymer parts or the metals used, everything is of a much higher quality because there's so much more competition. I think,
and more of it. I welcome it, absolutely. I think there's always going to be a place for £90 rifles, but I absolutely welcome the rise of better built stuff. Cool. I think we should probably, before we bore everyone to tears, let people get about the rest of their days. So thank you very much for coming on the stream, Phil. If you want to stick around, I'll have a little chat with you once we've signed off.
No worries.
Thanks everyone for joining us and dropping your comments. Really appreciate it. These will be a semi-irregular thing. I don't know when I'm going to do it, but when I stream, I'll let everyone know with some, maybe a bit more warning. But thank you for joining us. Absolute pleasure. I really enjoy doing these, and it keeps me sane. And last word from Phil.
Watch it. It's really good. If you don't already, my mate's in it.
Okay, so Phil, where can we find you?
You can find me at Clearwater Airsoft on Facebook and same Clearwater_Airsoft on Instagram. I don't do YouTube generally, so unless I'm with you.
Yeah. Cool. And you can find me in all the normal spaces. So thanks, guys, and we'll see you soon. I'll just close the stream down now.
Cool.